How does it feel that you've kind of helped usher in who used to be, when I started watching the show, when Russell brought it back, nobody knew in the U.S. what it was really, except for older folks who had been able to watch it on PBS. So it's really been with Matt that you've kind of brought it to the forefront there. How does it feel, spreading that?
Well, I mean, actually, as a long-time Doctor Who fan, I feel like I'm converting the heathen. So it's, I think the World Wide Team have been doing an incredible job of promoting it. That's what's happened. We've now got sort of enough episodes since it came back of saleable Doctor Who. That some of the old stuff is beautiful. I love it more than anything, but you can't really sell it abroad now. Really, do you know what I mean? I love it. I think it's the best thing ever. That's why I do what I do. But the new ones, we've got a lot of them now, and high production value, and we're really pushing them. I think when people see Doctor Who, they will like it, or at least an awful lot of people will like it, because he's brilliant. And I don't just mean the bits I do. I'm not saying that to randomly boast. I'm hanging from his coattails.
And do you want to film there again?
In America.
That was so great, yeah.
Oh, we did. We went back to New York. Yeah. Well, it's always story driven. It is story driven. We went to Utah, but I mean, originally we were going to Florida because it was all about NASA and so on. And so we discovered that Florida looks exactly like Cardiff. So I thought, we can't do that. We can do Cardiff here. Just comp an alligator on. We're fine. But we might. Yeah, it's possible. Love America. We love America.
You had a tremendous reaction to the mini episode with Paul McGann.
Yes.
The Night of the Doctor.
Yes.
How much fun was it having him back on board?
Oh, it was great.
Doctor, and is there any possibility of having a spin-off? Because fans are kind of quite keen.
Well, I would be very worried about having two Doctors sharing the lunchbox. How does that work? Which of them is more important than the other? Which is the junior Doctor? Which is the senior Doctor? I'm not sure that works. I think there has to be one Doctor per era. I think Paul McGann was superlative in that. I think, do you know what? I honestly think he's going to end up playing some big old lead because I know he already has that kind of thing, but I think he showed a flash of his leading man abilities, which we haven't seen quite in that dashing form for a while. So he's going to end up doing something interesting off the back of that, no question. You know what's really important about The Night of the Doctor? It's not that it was Paul McGann, brilliant as he was. It's not that. It's that you had a bloody surprise. Yes. Do you know, back in the day, we used to do those. So, don't spoil anything. but do you know what I mean? That's what it was. And I'd like to do that again. I think that will usher in, not so much a Paul McGann miniseries, it will usher in the idea that when our little minisodes, we call them, hideous name, but we call them that, I think we should take them more seriously than we used to. And I think that's the first one we've actually sat down and said, let's make a belter. Let's make a high production value belter and let's give them a surprise. You could count on us doing something like that again. But we won't tell you when. And from now on, I've actually told the BBC, if we do it again, we're doing it in Cardiff, I'm not even telling you what we're doing. And we'll give you it on the day, right? I mean, I won't tell you anything.
Because talking about surprises, just very quickly, you meant, obviously when we had the announcement of Peter Capaldi,
yes.
What kind of qualities do you think he's going to bring to that new Doctor?
Well, I don't know yet because he's barely started, but he's a genius. He's a genius actor. No, that's not even controversial to say. He's got a great love of the part. He's got, the moment you think of Peter Capaldi as the Doctor, you get it. You see that face in the TARDIS, that works. Everybody gets that. He's just going to give us a whole new kind of Doctor. We've got used to, I suppose, two really brilliant iterations of the younger, more puppy-like Doctor, and that's a real part of the Doctor, and they have both been superlative. Now it's time to now it's time for the old beast to snarl at you a bit, I'd say. I mean, sometimes you see that in Matt Smith at times as well. Sometimes he does show you, he will remind the people around him, I'm not really like this. Well, I think Peter's Doctor will make that even clearer. It's a guess.
And we spoke to Paul McGann recently, and he said that you'd had to bring forward the date for
yes.
releasing The Night of the Doctor, and you're
yes.
talking about keeping surprises. Was that a little bit of a disappointment for you in that you wanted to keep it for this week when the Doctor...
I didn't mind it going earlier. I didn't. I just went on one of the Doctor Who blog sites and I saw his photograph there and I thought, you bastards. I mean, because there were people who knew. There were enough people who knew. Most of them had the common human decency to tape their mouths shut, but one or two people have to be show-offs, and that was disappointing. But then it sort of rather worked for us because I said let's just be mean. Let's give them an hour. Let's just say in an hour's time, get to your iPlayer, talk to nobody. And that was a good way of doing it. That was a bit more showbiz, I thought. Just that. Because at the one point people saying we should call it Paul McGann in The Lost Regeneration. That would have had no impact at all. You'd have known what you were going to see. But a whole bunch of Doctor Who fans sitting down, clicking their computers, there he is. Possibly not the one you were expecting. And that was great. I loved that. I loved it.
Brilliant line.
Thank you.
If you were on Russell T Davies' place back in 2005, what would be your first episode? How would you start the TV show again?
I was of course involved in the show. I did some episodes that year. I would like to think, but can't quite convince myself that I would have done exactly the same, because what Russell did was exactly right. It was exactly right. It was a precision piece of television, that in how he positioned Doctor Who within the television landscape at the time. At then, no fantasy television, no family television, nothing of that kind existed, and yet he found a way to say Doctor Who is cool and Doctor Who is for you. You know, there was a tiny touch of Hollyoaks. There was it was the Doctor was a bloke you might meet in the pub. It was so cleverly done. I certainly wouldn't be attempting to improve on what Russell did, or anything Russell's done, in all honesty.
Why you think Doctor Who has such a huge following, and also we've had 50 years now, where do you see it going in the next?
Well, if I really knew how you get a following like this, I'd do it more often, eh? I also made chalk. No, I don't know. I mean, I think it has uniquely the virtues of being very old and brand new at the same time, which is an odd thing, isn't it? I mean, every time the Doctor changes, we get a completely different version of the same man. So it simultaneously feels as though it's a grand old tradition, and it also feels disconcertingly different and new. If you can combine those two things at the same time, be both reassuring and alarming, then you've got your hit television show. I think other shows should invent regeneration. Believe me, I've worked in other shows where I wish there were the possibility of regeneration. None of them that I'm working on now. So I think that is one part of it. Where's it going to go in the next 50 years? It's going to go nowhere. It's going to stay where it is. I don't know that, I think there'll be times when it goes up and down, because everything does. Not any time soon, as you can see. But I think as a television myth, as a legend, I think it is here to stay. If doing what they did to it, moronically, in 1989, when they tried to starve it, and even though actually it was going through a creative renaissance, they binned it, and even though it was doing quite strongly against Coronation Street with no publicity, it still, they got rid of it, and then they kept it off the air for 16 years. If that doesn't work, I don't know how you axe it. What do you do? Wipe people's memories? It is the audience, not the TV execs, and not me and not you, who decide what stays on television. And the audience have always been firm that Doctor Who is going absolutely nowhere and everywhere.
Has any of the present or past Doctors seen the anniversary? If they had a sneak peek of the
Have they had the sneak peek of the episode? It runs quickly through my head. No, actually, Matt Smith hasn't seen it yet. Well, he hasn't seen it in 3D. I think hardly anyone's seen that. No, hang on, no. We've sent it to 94 countries, so some people have seen it. How the hell is this not leaked? Hooray for worldwide. No. I think that's the answer. Absolutely no Doctor has seen it.
So there could be some surprises for them, because Colin Baker and some of the Doctors have grumbled a bit about it being surplus baggage.
Don't believe everything you... Look, have you not noticed we've been going around saying any old thing? All of us. The Doctors of disinformation. That's who they are. I mean, notice they're here. Come on, don't be so credulous. The only way we can keep secrets, and secrets are good. Wasn't it great when Paul McGann, who had previously told you he was definitely not involved in any way, popped up on your screen? Wasn't that fun? Yeah. We do more of that. That's why we wind you up a bit sometimes, in a nice and lovely way, so that you'll hopefully be a little bit more entertained. Hopefully, don't all snarl at once.
When you came in, you changed a lot, and you talk about all the new, you had sort of new TARDIS, new Doctor, new Companion, and so on, new Daleks. I mean, how difficult is this sort of balancing act between, reinventing things and staying true to the show's spirit of regeneration, if you like, and maintaining that sort of the core values that have made it such a success for so long?
Well, the trouble is, if you look at Doctor Who, all the bits have changed, haven't they? It is like the broom and with the handle and the brush that have been changed repeatedly. So it always works that way. The last time when I did all this, with the new Doctor, I didn't have much of a choice. except make it look as though we were being bold and changing everything. Because you know what? All the execs left, the producer left, both stars left, everybody left. There was nothing we could do except go for it. Just go for it and say, hey, we're coming in and we're super confident, we're changing nothing. Help, mummy. There was no choice. It is not necessary to do that. I mean, when Peter's Doctor comes in, there'll be several characters carrying over from the previous era because they can be. It was purely that I didn't have a choice the last time. It worked, but you know, I had a few sleepless nights. I had a sleepless year, but you know, it's how difficult it is to juggle that. It's not. I think Doctor Who is fundamentally quite simple. It's quite simple. It's a man who can go anywhere in time and space and have any face he likes. So, you know, and change is a constant. If you didn't change it, then you'd not be true to how it used to be. Oddly enough.
So kind of having that blank slate forced the boldness on you.
Oh yeah. Which is good and it's bad and it's terrifying.
Given that not many people have seen it, how are you feeling at this moment?
Breaking it, mate. Breaking it. Well, how do you think I feel? We just made a television show, and apparently they're sending it to 94 countries, and everyone in the world has got, I think, an advanced and sometimes angry opinion about what it should be like. And, you know, there is no possibility that one show is going to sum up everything that everyone wants from Doctor Who. But so I'm terrified. Yes, terrified. Absolutely terrified. But I think we've got a good show. But let's see. But yeah, breaking it would be the word. Normally I would do that we sort of go through that set of airlocks normally, right? I show it to my mates and they say, then we show it to the cast and crew and all that, and then we show it to the press, and I stand up and witter about spoilers, and then we send it out to other members of the press, and and you gradually get an impression of, you know, where you are with this one. Is it a belter? Is it an okay one? This time, nobody's seen it. And an hour and 15 minutes after nobody's seen it, everybody's seen it. And I have no idea what then happens. Do I have to go into hiding? But it's scary. It's scary. I thank God I haven't got anything else big coming up, like, I don't know, the Doctor regenerating or the reveal of how Sherlock survived. Thank God that's not my next couple of months.
I was wondering, when you were approaching the 50th, when you were writing it for the first time, what are the sort of core aspects of Doctor Who that you wanted to bring to such a huge sort of celebration?
I mean, core aspects of Doctor Who are sort of present in every Doctor Who story. That's the odd thing. But one of the core aspects of Doctor Who is one man against the universe. One man. There's one man who makes a difference. And now there's three of them. So it's actually, in a curious way, the celebration episode is different. The core values are altered. You could almost define Doctor Who as the story of Doctor Who as the effect the Doctor has on the people he meets, whether it's the companion or the world he saves or the villains he overthrows. It's his impact on them. But this special, this reverses that. It's the day of the Doctor. It's a story that affects him, as indeed it must be. There's three of the buggers. I mean, I talk about introspective. You know, it's an ego trip. He's talking to himself on a whole new level, and one of them sounds like John Hurt. You know. If only my interior monologues were so classy.
Going on to all back to change or lack of it, do you see a time in the future where there could be a format change, like a Exile to Earth unit style or anything like that in the programme?
I mean, I was always, although I think it sort of worked for a bit, the Exile to Earth, I was always nervous of how you'd market that. Now, less time travel and less space travel, and he works in an office. You know, Barry Letts and Terence Dix, who inherited that format, were immediately taking it apart and saying he can repair his TARDIS sometimes and he can bugger off. By the time you get into the second or third year of it, he's spending as much time in space as any other Doctor. But it did give us one of the Doctor's great friendships with the Brigadier, and that was, and the fact, and it did place front and centre his ambiguous relationship with combat and violence and soldiers, because although he claims to be the world's greatest pacifist, he has blown up more planets than anyone you know. So I quite like that. I quite like the contrast of this would-be hippie stuck among soldiers.
Is there any chance that we can see Jack Harkness again in the show?
It's story-driven, as always, absolutely story-driven. It's if we come up with a good story. I mean, the words "bring back" are among the most regularly used ones among Doctor Who fans. That's not a story. That's just a moment. I'm back, and now what? So it's just a matter of if there's a story. I wrote his first one.
How far, if at all, has your work on Doctor Who been informed by the stuff you've done before? I think particularly maybe of coupling?
I don't think it's so much informed by the stuff I've done before as informed and indeed limited by what I always write about. Do you know what I mean? It's I'm still me, and I'm still interested in the same thing. So these things sort of come up, and you know, an obsession and interest in non-linear storytelling. You know, unleash that man on a time travel show, and you're in trouble. And so you have been. So.
It just seems like quite a good fit, the whole sort of Matt Smith being in his 30s and you sort of doing a 30-something program.
Oh, that never bothered. I never think of the Doctor as being in his 30s. I mean, Matt Smith was in his 20s and his 30s as the Doctor. I never thought of him, and I never think of the Doctor as young in that sense. He can be silly and youthful and immature, but I don't think I ever think of him as young. And Matt Smith didn't play a particularly young Doctor. He played a mad, barking mad boffin who happened to have a young face. That's just skin. Look what we did to it.
How soon after coming up with the character of the War Doctor did you think John Hurt?
Well, I sort of knew that what we were going to end up doing was accounting for those 16 years, and it was just too exciting. I thought that there might have been another Doctor in there that you never bothered to mention. That was just too thrilling not to do. Once you thought of it, you think, oh, I've got to do that. So, having done that, for the end of the name of the Doctor to work, whoever turned around had to be awesome. You know, if it was me that turned around, that'd be really awful. If it was some middling actor turned around, you know, it wouldn't be. It had to be somebody that you always wished had played the Doctor. So we thought he was the first person we thought of, and the first person to be offered it. And what I always thought with John Hurt was, he was around during Doctor Who's lifetime. He's somebody, when you saw him as Caligula, I thought, I wish he could be Doctor Who. He'd be brilliant as Doctor Who. And now he is. We can do a special Mayfly Doctor, one who's there for one day. And you get, and for the Doctor's birthday present, he gets to be played by John Hurt, screen legend. But, that moment at the end of the name of the Doctor is so cool, because it's him, you know. Mm-hmm. And didn't we tardily underline our achievement? John Hurt as the Doctor. Way.
Would you ever consider revisiting earlier stories and updating them?
Do them again?
Yeah.
No, because then it happened to the Doctor twice, and my own sense of canon would go to pieces. I would say, well, how wouldn't he know he'd done all this before? Aren't we repetitive enough for you? No, I wouldn't. I like to think of all the Doctor Who story as one big story, and he shouldn't do the same story twice.